not available at present. Please leave your message after the beep.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
The number you have dialed is not available at present. Please leave your message after the beep.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
Welcome to Tea Time with Sweetapple. I'm Sweetapple, and welcome back, Pocket Man. I'm so glad to see you. We're going to be drinking some Shu Pu'er today, the last bit of my rain butter Shu from West China Tea. Let me get that a little closer for you. This is supposed to be a really buttery. Hey, Reaper, welcome. This is supposed to be a nice buttery Shu, and I've recently switched my pairings with my Yixing pots. This one's supposed to be a little bit less muting, so I'm hoping that that buttery flavor will be a little bit more prominent, because it was definitely a little subdued when I was brewing with my other pot. But without further ado, we'll get started and start heating up the teaware. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. And sorry about missing yesterday's stream. I could not renew my subscription, partly because the Canon website was down. Sammy, welcome back. But yeah, the Canon website was down, and so I couldn't renew my subscription, and so my camera wasn't working because of that. Because I need a Canon app to run the stream. Ooh, you're watching some One Piece with Pepito. Very nice. I need to catch up. I'm a couple episodes behind, but I think we're about to start the is it the Elbaf arc? No, no. But I think whatever it's called, it's gonna be the final arc, I think, which is so surreal. I've been watching One Piece literally my whole life. Like some of my earliest memories are watching One Piece on Saturday mornings as a kid, the Four Kids adaptations. Marine Ford. Oh, wow. You got a lot left to enjoy. That's awesome. That's a really fun arc though. Let's see what comes after Marine Ford. You've got uh, I think, is it Thriller Bark that's next, or am I completely off base? Fishman Island. Ooh, Fishman Island is a great arc. You're gonna like that one a lot. It's been so long. That's part of the since I like watched the early series of One Piece, so it's been really fun like with the live action. Yeah, yeah, it's a good arc. Um, it's been that was probably my favorite experience with the live action was getting to revisit those early arcs, and I'm really excited to see season 2 when it comes out because season 1 was excellent, and I really had my doubts. Gets a scythe. Ooh, Scythe Zora would be interesting. I bet you Zora would bust it down with the scythe for sure. Yeah, I'm so impressed with what they pulled off with the live action. I given the track record of anime adaptations, I had very low expectations, but they really pulled it off. And yeah, the casting is incredible. And some of the effects they do look a little bit wonky at times. I'm not gonna like pretend there aren't faults to the show, but the story really it carries everything through, and the casting works so well. Usopp, Usopp is like everything I ever envisioned him to be. It's so good. They absolutely crushed the casting. There's a lot of people I'm excited to see who they cast for season 2, but I'm gonna try not to spoil anything. But I do feel like Usopp's arc in the live action was a little bit rushed. World is dead. Yeah, I'm really interested, not just to see who plays Chopper, but to see how they approach Chopper as a character altogether. I think that's gonna be that could be a make or break moment. I feel like if they work out how to do Chopper well, then I'm gonna have pretty good confidence that they're gonna nail everything, no matter how deep into the series they get. Oh, Brooke. I think they'll do fine with Brooke, mostly because skeletons aren't a particularly difficult effect to pull off compared to an anthropomorphized reindeer. There's a lot of there's like practical approaches that are pretty well established to make people look like skeletons. There's fairly straightforward rigging and models that people could recycle, but I think that Chopper Chopper is going to be on a technical level just a lot more difficult in my opinion. Not that Brook will be necessarily easy, but I really feel like Chopper is the test of the VFX team. And there's also that rumored Naruto live action. I don't know if it'll ever actually get made, but that would be really cool to see. Uh, Even if that doesn't happen, I'd love to see Naruto get a reanimation like One Piece is getting, because it's a great story and I think it deserves to be told with a little bit better pacing than it got in its first go round. Ooh, these leaves are clogging and not. There we go. There we go. But I have a hunch that we're gonna see anime movies and video game adaptations usurp the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the next few years. Now that people have started to finally figure out that's super fair. The pacing with Naruto is rough, and in a different way than with One Piece, because there's in One Piece there's not so much filler as much as the pacing is just straight out brutal. With Naruto, there's entire seasons worth of filler, which is just oof. Yeah. Very dark. I don't know if that's because I was finicking with the lid and let this steep for too long, but we will find out. And I'm sure it'll be delicious either way. I love how a nice dark show gives you this sort of amber tones underneath, though. It's not just, straight black, it's this very satisfying color. Yeah, I might have oversteeped that one just a little bit. It's a teeny bit bitter, but it's still very good. Now, if I remember from my other times brewing this, I think it's the third steep that you really get that butter note. No, you know what? I think it's good. I don't think I oversteeped it at all, actually. It's a little earthy, almost roasty, but really tasty. Pretty, pretty mild. Not particularly sweet. I know, at least in my experience, a lot of shu is relatively sweet for tea. And this one leans a little bit more into its bitter notes, those like earthy kind of cacao notes and stuff like that, but it's very well balanced. It's a nice, easy sip. Not necessarily one that I could chug though. Mm. But yeah, I've been pretty busy this weekend promoting the album, which I'm pretty happy with. People seem to enjoy it. We're I woke up this morning, we were just over 2,000 streams, so that's a pretty solid first 4 days. I It's funny because I saw what was it, Friday, one of the a band that one of my mentors is in had released an album on the 19th, and they posted Friday celebrating hitting 3K. And so it kind of became a little bit of a goal of mine to beat 3K. Excuse me. Just because, they're a somewhat known-ish punk band. They're like niche horror punk, but still like a pretty well-established band. And I learned a lot from them, and it's just kind of cool to be able to surpass your mentors. I'm also just kind of competitive, but I'm stoked for them, and I hope that their album is getting streamed well. If you like horror punk, check out Grave Robber. Nice dudes. Lamentor taught me like 90% of what I know. Yeah, yeah. Because it's never, I'm not about being competitive in a way that's like, oh, I don't want you to succeed. I want only me to succeed. That's a bad vibe. That's not what I'm about. But I'll always kind of want to be the best. But earn fairly and in a way that doesn't, put others down or prevent them from also thriving. Because there's plenty of room for all of us at the top. That's the beauty of our community is we all have different experience levels and different levels of education in making music, and we just kind of share our resources and elevate one another. I was pretty fortunate. This dude just happened to be my guitar instructor in college, and we hit it off. He was into my band. He was like, yo, this band slaps. I used to work for Tooth and Nail. Let me record and mix you guys. And it just kind of blossomed from there. I was always hanging out in his studio, and yeah, I learned a lot by just hanging out in the studio. So if you do know anyone who has a studio, ask if you can, hang out sometimes on your weekends or whenever you're free. Just be like, yo, let me hang out. I'll clean or like take out the trash or whatever, and you will just absorb immense amounts of information. Though if they're really dope, they'll just let you hang out for free and they'll teach you stuff and be like, hey, come here, look at this. I'm gonna show you how to EQ and stuff like that. So, any musician that's really worth networking with, in my experience, is the kind of person who pretty freely and openly shares what they know. They want other people to succeed no matter how competitive they are. And I think that that's good for the culture. We should be competitive, but we should also be building each other up so that we can be even more competitive with each other. If that makes sense. I love some good friendly competition, you know what I'm saying? Worked with the producer in my pop punk days, recorded Oceana. Yeah, for sure. And it's really great that there are dudes out there that are established in the scene and are willing to help out. Like, of all people, and you can call cap, I don't really care, but if you know Neck Deep, I actually had the opportunity to record with Seb Barlow, who's now their bassist, but he also produced all their early records. And he's such a nice guy, but London is pretty far away. Well, not London, but the UK is pretty far away, so that didn't really work out. And then when my band was touring and kind of at our peak, I also got a DM from an intern at yeah, Neck Deep is dope. From an intern at shoot, what's the I'm blanking on the name of the band, but like Responsibility. What's that? responsibility, not quite yet. An internet their studio also invited us, but we were on the East Coast, and even the West Coast was a little too far then. Ironically, now I lived in Seattle for a couple years and never ended up actually going to that studio because I don't really do pop punk anymore. But it was it was an honor to even be offered to record there. But Seb is a good dude. He is pretty to himself, honestly. I get a feeling that most of the neck beat guys are like that, pretty introverted. And then I'm like weirdly plugged in with the pop punk scene, and I mean, I guess I was in it, but like not in it, so it makes sense, but it's weird. Like, I got a buddy who's a pop punk journalist, and he's really tight with I'm blanking on everyone's names now. Crap. Bowling for Soup, the singer from Bowling for Soup. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Crap. But anyway, but yeah, that's awesome. It's just awesome how people in that scene generally just did. Yes, Jared Dines. No, not Jared Dines. You're trolling me. Jared Dines is a YouTuber. Jarrett Reddick. You were close. But yeah, I got a buddy who's a journalist that's pretty tight with him. Um, and I just think it's cool how people in that scene just really didn't seem to have egos. And everyone was just really passionate about making good music and, making cool connections with people. And that's something that I really try to carry with me into this current phase of my career. Didn't man, I remember when Jared Dines was just dominating YouTube. I think he got canceled for something. I can't really remember, but that dude absolutely dominated YouTube for like 3 years or something. He had the whole like gent series and stuff like that. Dang, that takes me back. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's kind of what I love about the imaginary friends is we're all really focused on community, and that that is just this unifying goal that drives all of us is like creating a space for artists and marginalized people to lift each other up and put our best foot forward as a group, uh, and enable people to do stuff that they just couldn't on their own. I've benefited from it, and I've seen so many other artists benefit from it, and I really love what we're doing there. And we're just getting started too. We're just, I know it. By this time next year, we're gonna be doing so much more cool and amazing things, and I'm glad that we got in when we did, because it's just cool to be at the ground floor of something that is gonna do some shit. I also feel like losing Warp Tour, yeah, maybe 2025. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yeah. I also think losing Warp Tour was a huge blow to the scene. And then you had all these artists that got busted for essay and stuff like that, and it just sort of kind of fell to pieces, and the scene kind of imploded because there was the backbone of the scene was being good to each other, lifting each other up, uh, advocating for mental health and things like that. And I think all those artists getting exposed kind of damaged that perception in a way that the scene couldn't really recover from. It did, but it was still kind of dope. And I feel like festivals are just an important cultural hub. And in my opinion, I don't really feel like any of the festivals going on now are driving culture in the way that they used to. They've kind of regressed into cash grabs. And so you get people who are already big, but I definitely don't think emo is dead. I think it's thriving in its niche, but I'd give it like a decade and it'll be back. It's all it's always cyclical. I think I think shoegaze, in my opinion, is the next big thing, and that's definitely gonna help with like an emo resurgence because emo and shoegaze kind of go hand in hand, in my opinion. The catch is though, it comes back, but it's always a little different, and the real game is trying to guess how it's gonna evolve. Like we saw pop punk turn into emo rap, and I think the next evolution will probably be some variant on that, or maybe it'll go more back to rock. Who knows? Yeah, yeah. Metal has kind of always been huge. I don't think metal is going anywhere, but it's also not, it's not, driving pop culture. It's, in my opinion, it's just an extraordinarily large niche. And that's great. That's honestly the ideal. Because, like, no one talks about classical music driving art and culture, but it still does, just in a more passive way. It exists in its own little massive niche, kind of like metal. And I think that that allows you to protect the culture a little bit better than being pop. And I don't know if like we really want metal to go back to being pop. It's cool for a minute when everybody's into your thing, but the inevitable consequence is that yeah, I would say that's probably accurate. Slipknot was probably the last one that was considered pop. And you kind of you lose control of the culture when it gets to that level. Popcorn. That's good. Oh, I actually met Head. He's a really nice guy. I was at this conference and he had a seminar and I got to chat with him after that a bit. We're not like friends or anything, but he was a really, really nice guy. Ooh, yeah, there's that buttery note. Very delicious. I remember the funny thing being is not only was like punk and metal pop when I was a kid, but specifically Christian punk and metal. Yo, I'm so bad at it too, but I'm getting better. I've learned you gotta kind of you get your pick in and you get a little bit of separation. Oop, let me give a hand frame. You get your pick in, you get a little bit of separation, you kind of wiggle it, and then you gotta like go to the sides and kind of wiggle and try to break off a chunk. Yeah, exactly. It took me a couple months of really like consciously trying to focus on what I'm doing when I break up cakes to get it, but you'll get there. Yeah, exactly. You just got to find a good spot to get the pick in where you kind of see the layer separation and you just wedge it in there and gently pry it apart. It definitely takes practice. Yeah, I think it just comes with a lot of practice. I'm not super consistent, I still get like a lot of leaf, like my when I break up cakes, a lot of times it ends up looking like loose leaf. But I just think it's practice. I think people spend enough time breaking up cakes, over their life of enjoying tea, that it sort of just becomes habitual and they don't have to think about it anymore. I mean, that's why it's called Gong Fu, right? It's mindful practice. Yeah. I feel like I'm getting pretty good at folding up the wrappers, and a piece of advice that I've worked out myself is the bing hole is your friend. You want to kind of press things into the hole at the center of the cake and use that and just stuff all the extra paper in there. Excuse me. But yeah, just kind of you stuff all the extra paper into the bing hole as you go, and that makes it a little bit easier. And also just try to use the creases from when it was, folded at the factory.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
I also sometimes see these videos on Instagram of people folding up cakes to be sold, and that honestly helps just watching somebody do it. But, the Gong Fu is I learned actually pretty early on, and you may already know this, but it means mindful practice. So, don't stress about getting it right away. Just enjoy the process of learning. Oh, that sounds really tasty. I'm glad you're happy with your purchase. It's always a little nerve-wracking when you get a cake and you're like, "Ooh, will I like this? Will I not? Maybe I should have got a sample." So I'm glad it worked out. Ooh, I've made dumplings once and it was so much fun. I got my whole family involved in it. I made the filling and then I made all the wrappers. And we sat around the table and we all just, did our thing making the dumplings, and then steamed them, had them for dinner. It's very fun. I actually am super into that. I need to get a steamer so I can do that again. The bow style wrapping. Let's see. Oh yeah. So I did, and I hope I don't completely butcher this pronunciation, but Shui Jiao is the style I did, where it's sort of like a crescent shape. I mean, I suppose that's valid as well. Whatever floats your goat. That's a good point. Yeah. You will miss out on some of that oxidization if you wrap it in tinfoil. Oh, that's a really good suggestion, actually. I'll have to remember that for if other people ask me for recommendations. on how to, work on wrapping up cakes. Newspaper. Wow, I haven't gotten a newspaper in ages. I think since I was a kid. That's wow. Yeah. I don't think we even have the like the little stands that you can put a quarter in and get the paper out from. I don't even think we have those anymore. I know it's actually a fairly big problem in the US is that a lot of newspapers and magazines are running out of business because they can't earn enough money from online ad revenue.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
A cool product that I bet you wouldn't be too difficult to make would be like an easy wrapper for tea, where you get a paper that's a little bit more pliable uh, and forgiving than just straight up paper. And you kind of, you know how like those drawstring bags work? You kind of have it work like that, where you have a string through the center. You can just kind of place the cake down and then pull a string to close it around the cake. That would be that would be a nifty thing. Japanese paper foil. Well, would you look at that? Huh. That's neat. I didn't know about that. Well, there you go. It's so nice having very knowledgeable people in the chat. I just ramble about some idea and someone says, "Hey, that's a thing." I appreciate you sharing your knowledge, Pocket Man. I don't know if the real Chagu for real, Pocket Man knows what's up. They are the Cha Guru. I don't know if any of y'all watch AMP or keep tabs on them, but they've been in New York and it's been kind of wild. Tease. Now we're giving out tea in the chat. Tea is definitely best shared with everyone. I mean, in part, that's why I started these streams is to be able to share my sessions and enjoy tea with others. Yeah, if I remember correctly, Pocket Man is Taiwanese, I believe, because we were talking about their holiday that they were having, Chinese but live in the Philippines. Your cousin is in Taiwan. Ah, got my facts a little mixed up there. I have one of my close collaborators is Filipino, so got mad love for the Philippines. Also, y'all make some bussin' food, like some seriously bussin' food. There was a street fair that I went to last year with a Filipino barbecue stall, and it was oof, so good. I've been jonesing for it ever since. But yeah, Yucky Gross, amazing artist who is Filipino and a beautiful human being. That is unfortunate. You'll have to popularize it so they learn the joys of tea, because it is truly one of my greatest joys in life right now. Is just enjoying some good tea and having a nice conversation. Wow, we got some well-traveled folks up in the chat. Taiwanese living in Indonesia. That's funny. None of us live in our country of birth. We have a Chinese person living in the Philippines, a Taiwanese person living in Indonesia, and a Canadian living in the US. Mmm, their spiced tea is nice. Mmm. I really, I have I'm not sure what the actual term is. I guess technically a grandma. It's through marriage on my uncle's side who's Indian, and I love visiting them and getting some chai masala because some spiced tea really does hit, and India knows how to make some really delicious spiced tea.
The number you have dialed is not available at present. Please leave your message after the beep.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
I also envy the street food culture that exists throughout Asia, because that's not a thing in the U.S. like at all. That's what's up. It's too bad they're not into tea, but hey, you're benefiting from their teapot collection. Fujian white tea, summer super floral, almost like orchid. Wow. Well, that would be interesting to try. I'm always down to try some floral tea. I can definitely see how that's not everyone's preference though, because it's a very it's very intense on the palate and the whole olfactory system. I remember there was one tea that I had early on that it was extremely floral, and it was almost like drinking perfume, but in a good way, if that makes any sense. This is why I gotta get better at my descriptions. Oh, that's a really good idea, with like really floral teas to cold brew them. Make the flavor a little bit more mild, and yeah, that's a great idea. I'll have to try that next time I have a tea that's particularly floral and see the difference. I still haven't had a chance to try your recommendation about making milk tea, but I remember I gotta get powdered milk or powder condensed milk maybe. Oh, okay, I got you. At like a cooler temperature. I understand. Yeah, the poor barbecue sauce. I need to start, actually, I'm gonna start taking notes so I don't forget, because these are important and good ideas. And I love experimenting with food. Tea eggs. That's actually, that might be tasty. I'll have to try that. Yeah. I make eggs every morning, so that is definitely one I can do. All right, so tea eggs, milk tea. Air barbecue sauce. Oh, you know what? I know what you're talking about now. My brain went to mixing tea leaves into my scrambled eggs, but you're talking about the hard-boiled eggs and you soak them in the tea. Yes, I do have to try that as well. Though I do wonder how some tea leaves and scrambled eggs would taste. Yeah, very cursed. Yeah, definitely yeah. Yeah, that probably wouldn't be the best, but who knows? Maybe it's worth giving a try. Yeah. Yeah, it might make the eggs taste off. But no, I do want to try making some actual tea eggs. Now, I've noticed, if I'm remembering correctly, you're supposed to crack the shell before you soak it so that it can seep through, right? Chana mushi with tea. Oh, I see. Yeah, that would be kind of similar to making scrambled eggs with tea. I see. It is a egg custard dish. See, that's kind of because I was thinking you would want it to be in something more like a custard to kind of play into the sweetness, but yeah, maybe it's not the best idea. Oh, okay. Yes, the cracks, but can be peeled. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's smart. Just peel it ahead of time. But the cracks are pretty aesthetic because you get all the nice lines in the egg when you take it out. Decisions, decisions. I will say this tea has a very uplifting chi. I'm feeling very, joyful and a little bit giggly. So, oh, it's a very pleasant chi that this rain butter shoe has. But yeah, chawanmushi, chawanmushi sounds really good. I haven't heard of it before, and I'm loving learning about all these different dishes because living in the West, we get a very limited subset of Asian foods, that are generally pretty curated to Western palates. So it's always exciting to learn about new dishes that I haven't been exposed to before. Oh, that's a good idea. I feel like you could definitely make some sort of tea custard. Maybe, I'm trying to think, like maybe some sort of oolong, like a Taeguan yin or something like that, that's got some kind of spice notes and some sweet undertones, or like a black tea, and you make a custard, and then you go the next step and you turn that custard into ice cream. And now you have black tea ice cream or oolong ice cream. Because then it's sort of like a frozen milk tea. Yeah, that would be cream, not milk. Ooh, yeah, that does. Especially because, I look at the tasting notes of certain pu'er, and they describe them as being similar to whiskey. So if you pick out a pu'er that already matches that flavor profile, you could really be onto something there. Hmm, I see. I see. I was honestly, I figured that sugar would enhance it, so that's a good point that it would probably mute them because I didn't consider that. And floral notes being burnt would not be pleasant for sure. You know what I think would work really well with tea is if you made gin, like a gin and tonic, but instead of tonic, you use tea. You'd have to be really picky about the pairing, but I think if you get a tea that complements the gin you have, that could be really interesting as a cocktail. Or I guess it'd be more of a highball, but semantics. I've recently gotten into gin because tried before. Only Taiwanese black tea meant for milk tea tasted better in ice cream. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, definitely would want something that's already kind of good for milk tea. Yeah, I've made matcha ice cream and it is delicious, but there's definitely no floral notes. And also the matcha that I've gotten is probably not the best because it didn't really have floral notes in the first place. But I do like matcha. I want to when I start exploring green teas more, I want to get some quality matcha, but I also want to get the equipment, the teaware to make it correctly. Concentrated pu'er and drink it as a shot for instant cha chi. Hmm. You'd have to be careful about the temperature you concentrate to evaporate the water off because I know that different chemicals can be destroyed by heat. So if you boil it too much, it could actually hinder its chi. Yeah, matcha's pretty finicky. As I've heard, pretty much all green teas seem to be. They're very particular about how they need to be stored. Hmm. That's good to know for when I do get some matcha. Yeah, yeah. The oxidation is what makes them stable, if I'm remembering correctly from what I've read. Whereas the oxidation is the enemy of those teas that are closer to being, green or are green. So that makes sense. I think it depends on the tea, and I'm sure Pocket Man can give you a more thorough answer. But, oxidized teas that are, like heicha or anything in that category is probably fine to store in a cabinet. But I remember me and Pocket Man were talking about oolongs and them needing, or was that you, Sammy, and telling me that they need to be stored in a fridge? I think it was Pocket Man. But yeah, it kind of just depends on the tea. They all have their own requirements. But Puar loves the open air. And there it is. Pocket Man with the knowledge that we are all so appreciative of. This tea has gotten quite a bit lighter. Yeah, yeah. You definitely want to be mindful of mold if you are storing your tea in a cabinet. Humidity is your friend to a degree, but it can also become the enemy at a certain point, huh? When I lived in Seattle and it was so humid there, I probably wouldn't have been able to store my tea in a cabinet that wasn't climate controlled because mold would just grow anywhere spontaneously when we lived there. It was awful. We had to regularly like scour the apartment and clean things with vinegar, to get rid of the mold. It was wild, honestly. You just wake up and just feel damp. Yeah, that's how it is where I am now. I'm basically in the desert, so we don't get a lot of humidity. We don't really get a lot of rain until winter. Yeah, the desiccators. Hmm.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
They actually, those desiccators are really easy to get in California because everyone buys them for their weed. You can get ones that, and maybe it's the same where you are for the desiccators, where you can get ones that like work for specific percentages of humidity. You can get like a 65% humidity one, or you could get like a 50% or 40%, etc. So it's pretty funny, just seeing those in the store. cheap viewers on that place. No, thank you. We get real viewers, not robots. Thank you very much. It may not be much, but it's honest work. Though I will say, if Twitch is anything like the music industry, the top people are definitely all botting their stuff. Because perception is reality. If people see something that's getting heavy streams or they see something that's getting heavy viewership, they're going to be more likely to engage, or at least to give it a shot. I keep my HA in a drawer, so I got a whole big drawer full of my tea cakes and all that. It's also just very satisfying to open a drawer and it's just this big whiff of delicious tea aroma hits you, and you get to see all the cakes presented and stacked nicely. Yeah. I've just every little aspect of tea is something that I've come to enjoy, even just storing it and being able to look at it. Look at it. Sorry. Half of my thoughts are just clips of SpongeBob, if I'm frank.
The number you have dialed is not available at present. Please leave your message after the beep.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
I always see TikToks of people making catnip tea for their cats, and the cats always flip the bowl over and make a mess. They do seem to enjoy it though, but they get pretty zooted off of that stuff. It's really funny. Yeah, Sammy, if you do make some catnip tea for your cats, you definitely gotta record a video and share it with us. Permanent chachi. That's like those people who take LSD and never sober up. That Alice in Wonderland syndrome, but for cats. I actually saw somebody on Threads last night who was writing a blog about Chachi and how people experience it. They were asking for people to share their experiences and share how they would describe it, which was it was really interesting just to get a glimpse at how other people try to describe what is ultimately a pretty ephemeral feeling.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
Yeah, that was basically how I described it. Is like It's like the heady aspects of getting stoned, but without the brain fog. You know, you get the elevated mood, you get the sort of excited euphoria, but your mind is still clear and your body doesn't feel heavy the way that weed makes you just kind of couch locked and zonked out. It's a very nice feeling. It's very gentle. I think I also described it as like a blanket of happiness being draped over your brain. I think I love the way that it seems to just spur on conversation, which is really fun. No wonder tea is such a social drink. I need to get some more tea caddies. I got these two, but they're full of tea. Once I drink up that tea, though, I'm gonna fill them with something else. But I could use a few more, especially for some of my oolongs. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, again, I'm not the expert. I'm sure Pocket Man can answer this better, but I don't think that that's a major concern. I think that the air inside the drawer is probably sufficient because I don't imagine it's airtight. So it probably generally equalizes to whatever the climate in your room is. Hey, I love being right. Who doesn't, right? All right, I think I'm gonna give this one more steep. It tastes pretty brewed out, but I'm gonna let this go for like a hot minute to see if we can get any more out of this. Always sad to be drinking the last of a tea. Farewell, friend. You've been good to me. But yeah, I'm a big fan of West China tea. I know y'all aren't based in the States, so you probably won't ever order from them, but every tea that I've gotten from them so far has been extremely well curated. You know, the flavor descriptions are spot on, and the taste is just peak. It's exactly what you hope for with the type of tea that you get from them, but it's expansive. So I can't afford to buy a whole lot of it. But it kind of reminds me of this restaurant I went to in South Carolina called the Smoking Pig. They had a sign that said, "Good food ain't cheap, and cheap food ain't good." I think that's true of tea as well, generally. So sometimes you do find a good bargain tea. Um, I don't think that's a thing that's widely available in the States. I certainly haven't seen it, but I feel pretty confident that I could import it, and that's probably what I'll have to do. There's actually a tea shop that I wanted to buy a Yixing from that's based in Japan. And so I'll probably hit them up and get some matcha from them. Yeah, exactly. You were one step ahead of me. Okay, yeah, maybe I'll hit up Earl when I'm ready to get some matcha and see what his suggestions are. I know he already suggested a few that I have saved, so I think they weren't necessarily matchas. I think it was more sencha and hojicha, but I'm sure Earl will have some recommendations as well for matcha. But it'll probably be a while before I order more tea, because I haven't even opened all the tea that I got from that last order. It was a big one. But it is immensely satisfying to just have a hefty stock of tea. I'm a little spoiled for choice, to be honest. Every morning when I'm about to have tea, I have to sit there and decide what to drink. So I'm using OBS, but the model of camera that I have, it's a 70D, and it needs the Canon webcam utility to be able to work as a streaming camera. So that's so I'm using both of them in tandem. But like I said, the camera itself won't work unless I have the Canon app. Which luckily it's only $5 a month, but it doesn't help when the website is down. So it does have a micro HDMI, but it actually works better on USB, and the micro HDMI doesn't overwrite the it's a hard coding thing, and they worked in a workaround in this app in particular, and a lot of their newer models don't have this issue, but it's an old camera, and so it doesn't really, they didn't account for streaming when it was made, basically. So it works, and I don't really have an issue with it. I'm happy with the quality and the, the ease of use. But yeah, it's a little annoying, but that's all right. As long as the website doesn't crash on the day that I'm supposed to pay my subscription again. Yeah, but it's a good camera. I've had it for a while, and I got it used when I did, so it was dirt cheap, and it is a much better camera than what I paid for. Ah, yeah. It would be nice if I could just hook it into the micro HDMI, but it's all good. I'm not, like I said, $5 a month isn't too bad, and it's pretty easy to use. So I think in theory I could stream just through the Canon app, but I like the utility of OBS, so I just cast it to OBS. Yeah, Sammy is getting into streaming tea. They've had a couple streams, and you should definitely follow. We're trying to get more people, like trying to get some, community going around tea on Twitch. So definitely support Sammy, especially because they tend to stream when I'm asleep. So if you can watch them, that's better than, me not being awake and not being able to support. I'm always a little bummed when I wake up and I see that you were live, Sammy. I'm like, oh, but I'm glad you're getting into it. It's 1 a.m. for you. Holy. That makes sense. Yeah. Good night. Jumpins. And y'all are hanging out and watching me drink tea. Y'all, I love y'all for that. Cause that's yeah, no, I just appreciate that y'all are up in the middle of the night watching me drink tea. I'm sure you got other stuff going on too, but really appreciate that so much. Got a meal prep. Sure, that makes sense. Gotta get those veggies. Absolutely. Well, I sure appreciate y'all hanging out with me and spending your time with me, especially so late at night. I'm gonna wrap up the stream here, but once again, thank you, and I really appreciate your conversation. It's always such a treat to talk with y'all. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow.
If you're hearing this, I love you.
The number you have dialed is not available at present. Please leave your message after the beep.
If you're hearing this, I love you.